Hey guys, welcome back. I'm Rick, and in today's episode, I've got my 1987 Yamaha Big Bear 350 back by popular demand, and we're going to do an upgrade to it. So if you want to know what's in this box, keep watching. Okay, so we're going to start by getting it off its wheels a little bit, just so we can work at a better height. And lucky for me, I've got this nice lift to work with. And it'll make it easier for you guys to see what's going on. Alright, here we go. Alright, so if you haven't guessed it so far, here's what we have to do today. We're going to throw in a better winch than what's there. This is a 3,000 pound super winch. And what we have here is a very old school, probably like a 1,500 pound if I had to guess. Actually, it says 2,000 pounds. Either way, it ain't doing the job because clearly I got no power running anywhere because it had that old school rotary switch mounted on the side. And this one's going to have an upgrade with, I went and got on Amazon a nice little handlebar mounted switch, and we're going to go through exactly how to wire all this up. Okay, so let's open up the box and see what we got inside. And just like all the rest of my videos, this video is sponsored by myself. I don't have any sponsors, so I've got all of this myself. So we got a nice little winch bracket. Got the winch right here. And tons of packing. And on this side, we've got a remote for the winch, our fuse, and the solenoid, which would actually mount on top of the winch this way. With, of course, the brackets. We've got a fair lead, a hook, and some hardware. So let's mount the solenoid first. Of course, you can read the read the instructions, which I highly recommend you do. But because I've done this a few times, you can just follow along. Okay, so since I'm going to be installing a handlebar mounted switch, which I purchased from Amazon, if you guys were curious, and this one does not have one. What this has, because it's a utility winch, we have just a regular remote plug that would go in here and control the winch this way. So what we're going to have to do is we're just going to splice in to these plugs on the inside of this solenoid box with these three wires. So we're going to open it up at the back. Okay, so we're going to open up the cover like this, and inside here we're going to have our two relays. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at these three wires inside, and look at that. The colors are actually the same. So this is going to be easy peasy lemon squeezy. We're going to splice in here. I'm going to put another little tiny hole, maybe somewhere here, just large enough to get these wires to come through. Do all the connections inside this box, seal it up, put the cover back on, and then bolt it onto the top of the winch. But before I go too far, I always like to make sure that everything works on the bench, make sure my connections are right before I throw it into the bike. So with a battery that we have over here, we're going to connect everything up. And I don't think I need to say this, guys, but every time we play with electrical and the battery, always use extra caution not to arc anything together. So here we go. There's our positive. And there's the negative. So we don't have any arcing. Always a good sign. So let's see what happens here when I press the switch. Uh-oh, nothing happens. Oh, I hear some clicking. We got a bad connection somewhere. Come on, don't do this to me. Don't do this to me. Maybe my battery's dead. Maybe my battery's dead. Aha! Aha! Okay, so I wasn't getting a good connection on my negative terminal here. So when I press the switch, come on. Everything works. Now, it is actually out on my switch. Now that could be because of the way it's wired internally, and they're two different manufacturers, so that doesn't mean that the wire codes are exactly the same. Now this is something I'm going to be able to live with. I don't mind. I can relabel that as out and in on the switch. But if it does bother you, what you can do is you can switch the black and the green, and that would reverse the rotation of the engine based on what you see there. Now just for fun, I wanted to know if the switch worked, and this should also continue working. We plug this in just like that. We give it some power one more time, and if we look at this one here, if we go in, it actually does go in as prescribed. Out it goes up. So there you go. So now we know it works. So let's close up this box. Let's remove the old winch and get it in place. Somehow that comes out. Like that. All right. Check it out. Maybe that's why it doesn't work. I mean, I guess it jumped over and it's bound right there. Maybe this is actually not a bad winch after all. I might have a second life for this thing. I have an idea. Okay, so that was kind of tough to get that one out. I might not be able to get this one in. So let's see. Alright, so after trying a number of different locations for this solenoid box, this right here at about I don't know, 45-degree angle back is the best for me. Now it does give me one downside. Let me grab the camera here. And that downside is that once everything is bolted up, which it will be approximately right here, doesn't give me very much access to getting into this port here. But 99.5% of the time, I'm going to say, I'm going to be using the handlebar switch, which is right here. So that's going to be, after this is bolted up, that's going to be the next thing I'm going to do. Okay, so what I've decided to do after I've bolted up the winch, we're going to put in the fairlead. Now, this is in the way, this hose clamp, and like I mentioned earlier, I may just tack weld the corners of this plate so that it doesn't move. And to be quite honest, it's not going to be removed anyways. That's where it's going to live probably for the rest of its life. I mean, it's been there since '87-ish. So I'm going to put this in its place, centered as well. And since I've got the welder out, I'm going to do the same to this. I'm going to give it a couple of tacks, run the cable through it. Cool. So now we can start running wire. So the first thing I think I want to do is I'm going to run this wire, or sorry, wire and switch up to the handlebar, and I'm going to have it set onto the opposite side of the throttle. So I'm going to have it set right up here somewhere, so that when I'm winching, I can give it some gas. If the battery starts to go low, then we'll do that. So be cautious of where the wire is running. You obviously don't want to run it anywhere near anything that's moving or anything that would get hot, such as an exhaust, any kind of hose, you know, cooling hoses or radiator hoses, anything like that. You don't want it to run near that. So I have plenty of cable here, which I'm going to just end up bundling together like this somewhere, probably in this neighborhood. So that, there you go. There we go. Okay, we've got it on the top, just like that, and that's going to go right here, and then all the extra wire is going to go right up in there. Now the switch did come with all those brackets that if I wanted to use I could, but figured this would be low profile, and I just dropped my screwdriver like that. Figured this would be low profile and kind of out of the way, so I don't get it stuck on branches or anything like that. Just like that. And now the only thing left to do is to tie wrap all these wires down inside so that they're out of the way. Alright, this is what it looks like. So we've got the switch mounted up here. The wires come down the handlebars, down through here, and then right down the frame. Actually, as convenient as it was, there was this nice little tab that I was able to open up, bend over, and kind of clip it around and hold the wires in place. So now let's do the same thing for the positive and negative. Alright, so I've got the positive side connected. I thought it was at the back of the battery, but it turns out it's at the front. So I've got it connected over here down to my 50 amp fuse over here, going all the way to the winch in the front. And as for the negative, I was a little bit short going to the back of the battery, and rather than adding other wires and having to splice them in and causing a little bit more resistance and possibly losing power to the winch, actually the negative of the battery goes right here, which I would have loved to have installed, but for some reason this particular bolt is stripped out and I just don't have time to deal with that right now. So I went to the next closest bolt that would reach the wire end right over there. So the next thing we need to do is to find key power for the switch. And yes, I have labeled the switch because remember it was backwards. And on these older 350 Big Bears, right over here, so this tan colored wire works good. And the way we can do that, it was with, of course, a multimeter. So I'm set to voltage. I got my negative lead onto a ground. I'm going to probe this wire here. Hard to do this with the camera. So I'm going to probe that wire there, and with some key power. Let me go see. Okay, so now we have 12 volts or battery voltage. And with the key power off, it goes down to 0. And that's what we're going to use. I'm just going to splice it right here. And then we're ready to go try it out. Let's go, I guess, get stuck and pull ourselves out. Alright guys, let's see if this actually does winch. By the way, I don't recommend doing this at home. And there you go, she's in the air. That concludes this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.